welcome to you all as you're arriving. We're just going to give it a minute or two more because we have many friends from all around the world joining us tonight. And I think when I checked before, there may even be over 300 people intending to join us. So we'll just give people a little bit more time to arrive. So welcome all this evening. I just need to be aware I've got to click on admit from time to time because people are sitting in the waiting room. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is truly a celebratory event. And I'm so grateful that Christina stimulated this wonderful gathering and to appreciate and support our dear friend Yanai. I'm sure someone of the teacher group will say a little bit more about him, but I saw him just a few days ago and he was looking really well, which was just so lovely to see. So without any further ado, I'm going to keep an eye on the waiting room and let people in, and I'll hand you over to Christina, who is our host this evening. Over to you, Christina.
Thank you, Anshin. It's truly lovely to look at the screen. There are people on this call that I haven't seen in years, and really appreciating your willingness to turn up, your willingness to be here. A very huge thank you to Gaia House, to Anshin, to the team at Gaia House, who've actually done so much work to, get this ball rolling. So I'm just going to say a few words in introduction, and then we have really quite a number of teachers who are willing to contribute to this reflection on generosity and community. So a huge thank you to all the teachers who've so generously been willing to contribute to this reflection. It's heartwarming. It's lovely. The Buddha is sometimes quoted as saying that there are two kinds of fortunate people in this world: those who are able to give and those who are able to receive. And I think in our lives we probably find ourselves in those positions at different times. In times in our lives when there's easefulness, when there's health, when there's financial sufficiency, when the people we love and care for are well, we find ourselves very able and very willing to give and really sense the loveliness of that generosity. And there will also be times, probably for all of us in our lives, when our worlds crumble, our health falters, and we meet and are faced with life's challenges. And there's much grace in being able to receive and knowing in these times, when we're the most vulnerable in our lives, that these are the times when community and generosity truly means the most to us. And we think in the Buddhist teaching just how much value and how much emphasis is given to both of these: the generous heart and the sense of community that sustains us in times of challenge. So at the moment, I'd like to invite Sharon, if you are willing, Sharon, to kind of lead us into this evening.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Hopefully I'm unmuted. Am I unmuted? Yeah. Okay. It's wonderful to be with you all, and it's 1:35 in the afternoon for me, so it's a perfectly convenient time to gather. Why don't we sit together for a few minutes? And what I'm so tempted to do, so it's what I'm going to do, even though it's a little bit out of sequence in a way, is a form of loving. It's a combination of loving kindness and sharing of the merit. Usually we do a sharing of the merit at the end of a program or the end of a retreat, something like that. But coming together at all is an act. And all the preparatory work any of you have done, or the reflections on Yanai and wishing him well throughout these weeks, and offering contributions, whatever it might have been, are considered very meritorious acts. So the belief in the Buddhist tradition is that when we do anything toward the good, we're generous, we're kind, we're restrained, like it would be very easy to tell a lie, and we don't. When we meditate together, even if it feels as though our concentration was not really good. When we join together as a community, we ask questions, we ponder things deeply. All of this produces a positive energy. And having done this so far, come together, we can do this again at the end, perhaps, someone has moved to. We have generated this positive energy. And so the first part is actually allowing yourself to experience it, not rejecting it as conceit or arrogance, but realizing that we honor the good. When we honor the good, that moves through us. And then we dedicate it, we offer it to others. And that's the part I'll lead. I'll lead it in the words that I use. You're welcome to silently be repeating whatever words you might prefer. And that would be fine, okay? So you can sit comfortably, close your eyes or not. Allow your energy to move into your body. And as I was saying, there are lots of ways of spending an evening or an afternoon. And this is a beautiful one. So having made this choice, caring enough, offering good wishes, all of these things, offering financial generosity, any kind of generosity, making a meal, thanking somebody. We can feel the delight of that we can make this kind of choice. We have this opportunity. And then we dedicate it, first of all, to those who've helped us. Here, I would imagine Yanai is going to figure in a lot of people's reflections. Maybe people who've helped us long ago, or have given up their time right now so that we can be here together. Just whoever comes to mind. And the words that I use would be something like, I dedicate the positive energy or the merit of my practice to you. May you be safe and be happy, be healthy, live with ease or ease of heart. And just see who comes to mind. And those who are struggling or having a difficult time right now, I dedicate the merit of my practice to you. Practice includes coming together, caring, questioning. I dedicate the merit of my practice to you. May you be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease. And to all beings everywhere. As an affirmation of the fact that our inner work of any kind could never be just for ourselves alone. I dedicate the merit of my practice to all beings. May all beings be safe, be happy, be healthy, live with ease. So thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you so much. Joseph, lovely to see you. I wonder if you would be willing to follow on.
Hello, everyone. I guess we're starting off with the Barry contingent. So I also would really like to thank everyone who helped to organize this event. I know how much work it takes to bring all this together. It's particularly meaningful in that it's in support of Yanai. As we all know, he's been of such great service to so many people for so many years. And even now, during these very challenging times, just his open-hearted sharing of his process, of all the ups and downs and challenges and difficulties that he's going through, in the way he's shared it, has been a tremendous inspiration and a teaching in itself. So I think it's really a great blessing for us all to come together to help in whatever way we can. In reflecting about all this, I see the Sangha coming together as expressing so many different aspects of the Dharma and of the teachings. Very recently, I came across a description of dukkha. I think I came across it online. I can't even quite remember where, but it really struck me in its simplicity, in its comprehensiveness. So it said, dukkha is the inevitability of unwanted experiences. Dukkha is the inevitability of unwanted experiences. And of course, this is a very succinct statement of the First Noble Truth. The corollary of this, which I think we're all aware of, is that we are not exempt from the inevitability of unwanted experiences. It happens to us all. It's a universal aspect of our lives. And when we can let this truth in, when we can really take it in and understand it and relate to it in our own lives and see it in the experiences of others, I think the natural response from understanding this fundamental truth of our lives, the natural response is compassion. Now, compassion here is more than a feeling. And Thich Nhat Hanh expressed it, I think, really well when he said compassion is a verb. Compassion, the feeling of compassion calls us to act, to help in whatever way we can. And so when I first heard about Yanai's diagnosis many months ago, all of these different aspects of the Buddha's teachings came into play. And the simple impulse of how can I help in the face of difficulty, whether it's our own or with other people, and in this case, all the challenges and difficulties that Yanai is going through, in his illness and recovery. This simple impulse, how can I help, I think is a strong reminder and motivation for a caring response. As we all know, generosity is foundational to the whole spiritual path. It's the first of the paramis, and it was very often among the very first teachings the Buddha would give to people who were first entering in on the path. And I think that the reason he taught generosity at the very beginning and all the way through is that when we're generous, it brings about a tremendous sense of delight. Generosity is joyful. And for those who are making generosity a practice, rather than simply kind of holding it as a nice idea, then there's a genuine delight when we're provided opportunities to be generous in the myriad ways that are possible. So I first got to know Yanai many years ago when he was resident teacher for the staff at IMS. So he was here for an extended period of time in those years, and I really got to know him quite well, both as a colleague and as a friend. And then, of course, he was teaching regularly, yearly, his yearly retreat here at IMS. And so our friendship has continued over all these years. So now when I think of Yanai, based on this long, long association, there are some qualities he has which immediately come to mind. It's like these qualities just seem inseparable from who Yanai really is. And the first thing that comes to my mind, and probably for all of you as well, his unwavering commitment to the Dharma, his unshakable commitment to practice. It is just so steady and has been that way for so many years. And part of that, and this is kind of the second quality that to me just jumps out when I think of him, is that he walks the talk with impeccable clarity. There was never any, in my experience of being with him, for so long, just the integrity of his being and of his life is so outstanding, and it has been an inspiration and a teaching for me. And of course, also reflecting upon the many years of his service to so many people, who are entering and walking along the path. So it's almost like Yanai and Dharma are one. And that's a really beautiful aspect of his being. So I feel it's a privilege for all of us, as a Sangha, as a community, to come together and to be supportive in whatever way we can, to really be helping Yanai in the best way possible as he continues on his path of healing and recovery. So I would just like to express my metta and good wishes to Yanai and to all of you as we join together in this wonderful community-wide support of Yanai at this time. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Joseph. I too was reflecting on those long ago days and Yanai and his early, just when he'd finished training, being the resident teacher at IMS. Thank you, Joseph. Zohar.
Thank you, Christina. And thank you to everyone who's spoken before me. It's such an honor to speak first after the elders of our community. I think Anshin used the word celebration, or to celebrate, when he introduced the session, and Joseph touched also on this opportunity to honor a particular person in our community this evening. And that was really present for me when I was reflecting on what I wanted to share this evening. It's 10 to 9 here in Jerusalem, where I currently am. So I've had the great privilege to know Yanai, first of all, as a teacher, and then as an elder in the community of teachers for me, and now working alongside him with the teacher council and in all these different forms, having that sense of inspiration from his generosity, from his kindness, and from his dedication, as Joseph mentioned. And this evening, I'm joining you kind of in the middle of a protest. And so I thought, this is really interesting to reflect on. Here in Jerusalem, there's 100 or 200,000 people protesting outside the Supreme Court. And I was there. I've been in Israel 3 days, 3 protests so far, one every day. And I want to pause a little bit with this word protest or demonstration and what they mean. And I promise I'm going to tie this in to kind of more classic Dharma that we're all familiar with. But to protest is to support something, or to test, to witness something that we believe in, that we want to stand up for, that we want to support in the world. And that is very much what we do when we practice. And when we demonstrate, also, we're embodying. We're embodying the qualities that matter to us, and the qualities that we wish to shape ourselves, our own heart and mind, as well as the community. The community of practice, the community of beings, our societies. And so I was reflecting on that inner and outer movement of our practice. And I think it was Christina who said it earlier, or maybe it was Sharon, sorry if I don't remember. We're never actually alone, right? We're not able, Sharon, it was you, to practice just for ourselves. And over the years, Yanai has been such an incredible inspiration in that way, of making that movement into bringing the practice into activism and weaving that in from that deeply held Dharma conviction and from the Dharma seat that he embodies so fully and so authentically. And so I really wanted to bring that in and to invite us to rejoice. And I feel this is an opportunity as we come together as a community to rejoice in the beautiful qualities of one person in this community, but these qualities are mirrored in us, through all of us. And to have that sense of joy in the gifts that Yanai has brought and continues to bring to the Dharma and to our world, and to also feel ourselves as part of that. So that sense of the community that is our internal community, the community of practitioners, and the community of all living beings. Anyone who's listened to Yanai in the last few years in his talks, that is so powerful and so strong a message. And to have that sense that as we rejoice in someone's gift, and as we rejoice in our different ways that we can celebrate those gifts, bring our generosity to that we are participating in that movement of generosity, in that movement of nourishing the Dharma in all its forms in the world, and in our own hearts, and in the world that we share. And just to close my contribution, just to say, we do this with each breath. Each breath is an opportunity to feel that interconnected giving and receiving. With each breath, we are receiving life from other life forms. And as we breathe out, we're offering life to other life forms. We learned that in science lessons in school. But we can tune into that, and we can tune in also as we breathe to what we wish to nourish, and to the joy that opens up for us through our acts of care, generosity, and remembrance of community on any and every level. So thank you all for being here. And thank you to all that have organized this beautiful opportunity. And may this be a continuous celebration of joy.
Thank you, Zohar. Thank you so much. Leela, are you here? I think you are.
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's my evening. I join you from the edge of the Baltic Sea, Sweden. I often think of generosity as a sacred oil, as a lubricant, that which makes life and everything run smoothly, gracefully. As we know, generosity is a practice. It's also an expression of the awakened heart. When we practice generosity, we become more robust. We have a sense of ground. Perhaps one could say, although it's not a particularly Buddhist expression, that it's soul building, makes us feel robust. Yanai has been a close personal friend of mine for 30 years. We've been teaching many retreats together consistently, year after year. And I know at home, Yanai, through this time of challenge and physical challenge, he's had an altar of cards and greetings and well wishes. And these wishes, these words and pictures, they have really carried him through this period, been immensely important. Generosity always flows from the heart. It's a heart expression, an expression of the understanding and the wisdom of the heart. All understanding and realization needs to be lived. This is generosity. And Yanai has such a rich and beautiful, deep heart, kind heart. I've been touched to witness him being a new kind of teacher during this time of illness. He has brought care and maturity in his sharing, his human sharing. It takes a lot of heart to share vulnerability of being, to share with wisdom the journey that he has been going through. When I met Yanai a couple of weeks ago, at the forefront of his heart and mind was how to reconnect with students, how to find ways to share and be present with the Sangha. It's so touching. So I'm just taking a breath to see if there's something more I want to share with you tonight. I'll be meeting with Yanai tomorrow, and I'll share the felt sense and the flavor of this beautiful gathering, and the fact that we're gathering and that we're shoring up support. This support is tremendously important. Yanai, he moved from one part of the world to the other to serve the Dharma, and he's done so consistently for all these years. And so he needs our support. Thank you.
Thank you, Lila. Thank you. Jake.
Thank you, Christina. Wow. Really quite something to take everybody in, and just really looking at all of your faces and really treasuring actually this opportunity to be together in this way. And yeah, I feel very moved actually by what's already been shared. And as I was reflecting on this quality of community, of course, it brings up the sense of where do we belong and who do we belong with? And of course, for many of us, this can be quite a complex thing. You know, we might really want to belong on the one hand, not quite be sure where we belong. Are we on the edge? You know, where do we really feel at home? The big questions for many people, bringing to mind the wonderful reflections from Sebene Selassie in her book, You Belong, which kind of links this theme of belonging with the Dharma. And for me, it made me actually think of being at school. So I had these memories of school. And sometimes at school, I didn't feel this sense of community particularly. It could feel a bit competitive. I don't know if it was like that at your school or whether it was just mine, but you know, you had to have the right clothes, you had to have the right trainers. And I remember sort of explaining to my mum that at my school, it really mattered whether my trainers had 3 stripes or 2. And my mum would say, look, they're the same thing, really. And I was like, no, this is the key to fitting in, to belonging. But it could sometimes feel, a bit kind of competitive, a little bit, a little bit tough, really, to find that. But then I remember finding a particular group of friends at one time, and there were 3 other people and me, and just a particular evening where we were sharing and perhaps really taking the risk as teenagers to be a little more vulnerable, to be more honest, to share music. And I just really we've heard this word felt sense. I wouldn't have used that phrase at the time, of course, but a felt sense was very different. My heart was easing and feeling, well, just more connected and more free. And this, for me, is what community can really do. It can be that transition from feeling separate, isolated, cut off on our own, to feeling connected, part of something. And that, I think, also really supports us in being with all that is painful and difficult. It supports us in being with loss. And as people have said, I really hope it supports Yanai in what he's going through at the moment. And of course, it doesn't take away difficulty or doesn't take away loss, but I think it really does help us to hold it with more space, really, to know that support is there, both emotional support and also practical support. And just finally, I just wanted to again reflect on another association, which is just how strong the themes of community and generosity are in so many of the world's, spiritual traditions. I would imagine all of them. And it always makes me think of my experiences at Sikh temples, at Gurdwaras, because my wife's family is from a Sikh background. And there's one particular place that we go to, and you go upstairs. And there's the meditation and the prayer and listening to the scriptures, really deep part of the tradition. And then downstairs, we're eating food, sharing food, doing the washing up, taking care of each other. And there's a beautiful sense there really of the whole, the whole of our practice, the contemplative life, then really feeding a life together. And a life that supports us to be with everything that comes our way, with all of the joys and the sorrows. So thank you everybody, deep pleasure to be with you, and good wishes to you all and to Yanai, of course. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jake.
Thank you.
Martine.
So it's a great pleasure to be with you all, and also especially to support Yanai, because often we see the teacher, like Yanai is a Dharma teacher, he trained with Christina, and he has practiced for many years, and now he's teaching. And often people will see him more like as a teacher. But actually, having known Yanai for 30 years, and I've been associated with Gaia House for even more years, we don't realize actually what the Dharma teacher do outside of teaching. And actually, Yanai did so many amazing things. Of course, he was at Barry, but also in terms of Gaia House, you know, being on the teacher council for all these years and organizing the community Dharma leader program. And I mean, he has in a way given so much energy, but for free, actually, really for free. And then, of course, then he gives retreat. And then people all support him financially. But I think to me, in a way, at this time, where actually he is ill. And so at one level, everything stopped. And at one level, finances stopped also, especially for a relatively itinerant Dharma teacher. And then there is, you could say, three different things. There is a thing that, as he is ill, even if we all supported him communally, he's the one who is suffering in a way. And I think when we ill, only us have the pain of our illness. And so in a way, when we ill, not only we are in pain, not only there is dukkha, but there is that aloneness, however much we are supported. And so in a way, because of his practice, Yanai is really kind of showing us, in a way, how to be with pain, how to be with being ill. And so really kind of in a way to be with him as much as we can, considering the conditions. And also, to me, generosity. I find that very interesting, generosity. Especially here, I think what would be really helpful would be financial generosity. And often when we have this, this is my question. How much do I think about me? How much do I think about the other person I want to give financially to? So I really hope that you will think the middle way, or possibly tonight we could think a little more than the middle way, to really try to support Yanai financially so he can really recover. Because I think this is the one thing we have to be careful when somebody is ill, is that often one is so tempted, of course, to have connection to teach. I can totally understand that. But sometimes one feels nearly forced to start working again, teaching again, and sometimes for financial reasons. So I think it would be good if we could really help Yanai financially so that he doesn't feel forced to teach too early. But then he can take his time, he can do online teaching if it's possible. So really, in a way, cultivating what I would call selfless generosity, thinking of all what Yanai has given behind what you see, and really kind of, having that movement of the heart. Someone was given so much. Can we also give so much to him at this time of difficulty? So I would really kind of, how can we support him? That I think, would be really important for the next few years. And really, kind of also, of course, having him in our heart. And so I feel, to me, as a community, I think this is so important that we feel we are in this together. And one of us is in difficulty, that immediately, like Christina organizing and different people already having helped in many ways, to really, we want to support this person in this difficulty right now. So it's not an idea, it's an actuality. Right now, what can we do for this person? And of course, each of us will do it in whatever way they can. So I really kind of thanks everybody for their generosity toward Yanai. And I also thanks Yanai for his generosity all these years. He has given freely in the background for all our sake and for very much all this center. I think this is what is so important when the Dharma is your main focus in a way. Then it's kind of how can we develop for the benefit of all being. And so he had all this energy he had given to this project, we could say. And now maybe other people can do that project and he can take care of himself.
Thank you, Martine. Thank you so much. Kinshana.
Thank you, Christina. Well, I'm delighted to see so many people turning up. I'm joining you just across the border from northern Italy. This is an early evening here. The bats are out and the screech owls are going on. Thank you, Martine. Very heartfelt words. Let us be generous with the man who has been generous with so many people over the years. I'm really grateful, Martine, that you mentioned all the pieces of the meditation teacher that are generally not seen in the public. You know, much of the holding, much of the stewarding, much of the help, and the nitty-gritty, not just the glitzy teacher presenting, you know, the timeless Dharma, but actually the holder of it all. You know, the mum and the dad of the Dharma, if you want to speak. I've known Yanai as a colleague for almost 30 years. And he's been an inspiration. When I read, there's these two little pieces in the, buried somewhere in the numbered discourses where it says about qualities of a friend, you know. They give what is hard to give. They do what is hard to do. They endure what is hard to endure. They reveal their secrets to you. They keep your secrets. They don't abandon you in times of trouble, and they don't look down on you in times of loss. I think of Yanai. He is a guy who has really walked his talk, who has done difficult things. He has done difficult things where nothing could be won. You know, nothing personal could be won. No gain could be won. No praise could be won. No rewards could be won. And yet he has done them, like Joseph said, for his unwavering commitment, and something that deeply has moved this man's heart. Yeah, and everybody who is in touch with him will feel this man's heart is moved by that, and he operates by that, you know, in fair weather and in foul. And that is impressive. That I truly find impressive. So, yes, I think of Yanai as the friend who inspires love. I think of Yanai as the friend who inspires respect, who inspires emulation, who is the man who capable of listening and capable of giving counsel, who is capable of holding deep issues, deep topics, of holding the deep stuff, and somebody who looks out for you. So I recommend him to your generosity. Let us be very practical. There is a man who has not earned much in this year, and he will need, as Martine says, to look after himself for another good while. So let us support him in ways we can. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Kinshana. Helen.
Yes, here I am. Hello, Christine. So greetings from sunny Greece. I'm just on holiday here, and I was very pleased to join on this talk. I know Jana from the days in the old Gaia House when he was undergoing Kasana retreats, and I was at times there. And he was a tremendous example of commitment to the practice. It was a very rainy summer, and I sometimes decided to stay in the room, but I could see Yanai walking with an umbrella in the rain, doing his walking meditation. And we passed each other, and since 17 years we have been teaching together the yoga and meditation retreat. And it's such a joy to teach with him. And that meeting of our teachings is so enriching. He definitely walks the talks, and he has this wonderful heart. it's a pleasure to be alongside of him. I thought about the theme, and in the yoga we speak about the generosity of the breathing and the teachings that are in the breathing. And I thought maybe because we have heard so many lovely things about Yana, my suggestion is just to guide you through a very simple, maybe 5-minute practice so that things can settle and you can use my words or other words. And with that in mind, maybe you want to close your eyes. You also can keep them open. And maybe you feel willing just to sit comfortably and allowing your eyes to close. And in that closing of our eyes, we are not rejecting anything that is around us, but we are allowing a U-turn. And in this process, we can turn to that awareness. The awareness can make us aware that inside of us is a space. In this body is a space. That space has organs in it, and we can smile into that space. Even if an organ is missing, even if we carry an illness. Because we acknowledge that this body is still doing the best it can under the circumstances it is in. And by smiling into the body and the body receiving our kindness, the body allows to soften. There is in the body the movement of the breath. And this breath is given freely. And maybe we can allow us to smile to the experience of breathing and therefore expressing our gratitude for this freely given gift of breathing. When the breath feels our kind awareness, it reveals itself to us. We might become aware that the breath is moving in a space which in there is a silence and a deep quietness. There's also a space that is vast and unlimited around us. And in it also a silence and a deep quietness. What we call inhalation is a movement of the breath from the space and silence around us to the space and silence in us. And when the inhalation is ended, we rest in that silence, that quietness, the space. What we call exhalation is a movement from that space, that silence, that quietness in us, to the space, and in it the silence, the quietness that is around us. And when the exhalation has ended, we can rest in that space. And by being aware of that movement of the breath between those two spaces, we might feel a tremendous sense of gratitude for what is being freely given to us. You might be aware that in the space that is around us, that is vast and unlimited, all things have their place. We allow that awareness of breathing to take slowly center stage. And by bringing our awareness to the breath, it might respond, it might become alive, more awake. And with this feeling for body and breath, maybe we have an urge to move a bit. And once more, we smile with that sense of gratitude for this life given to us. Thank you very much. And yes, let's be very generous to Yanai so that he can recover well and don't feel the urge to return to teaching to earn. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you so much. Martin.
Hello, friends. Thank you, Christina. Oh, it's very touching just hearing other long-term friends and colleagues of Yanai's and seeing so many other friends and colleagues and students of his here, and just hearing different people evoke Yanai's beautiful qualities. It's very touching. I feel like it kind of brings him into the room, and as if I'm almost looking around the screen for him. And so that sense of his presence and his qualities being so beautifully brought to life by people, and just sitting in the appreciation of that, really. Also had a long relationship of 30 years or so, and teaching together and running retreats and other programs, taking backpacking trips together into sharing Yanai's love of the wilderness and wild places where something very, very joyful would come alive in him, being out in the nature. And that was one of the sacrifices, I think, in some ways, moving from native New Zealand and the wilderness that he loved there to the UK with its comparative less wild open spaces. And I also really appreciated Martine taking the lead on the very kind of down-to-earth reminders that amidst these beautiful qualities of generosity that can go in so many different directions, the recognition of the down-to-earth, the practical, the needful, the financial. So I assume people will have received a link if they're here, or will receive a link, but I wonder if we might paste it also into the chat while the generosity juices are flowing for people, as it were. And yeah, thank you, Anshin. I see the links there now. And I was just listening to people and reflecting a little on that, the way, of course, the spirit of generosity runs through the tradition and has so many different expressions. And we find ourselves we're practicing in a culture that is very consumptive, right? Very acquisitive. And we might be tempted to ask, what am I getting? What am I getting from my practice? I see people turn up on retreat here, and they've committed time and money and energy and resources to be on retreat. And there can be, understandably, that sense, what am I going to get from this retreat? And practice of dana, generosity, offering, mutuality, really encourages us to turn that around, rather than what am I getting from my practice, to put the focus, oh, what am I giving to my practice? When we go on retreat, what can I give to this retreat? And there's something, kind of, sort of, it's relieving, right, to the soul. It eases the burden. What am I going to get? It's like, I've got the responsibility to get something, to sort of improve in some way, to get a takeaway. What can I give to my practice? And that sense of offering that runs through the tradition, even when we enter a Dhamma hall and we might make a bow, it's like, it's an offering. When we light a candle or we light incense on a shrine, it's an offering. And so there's that sense to find ways where we get to taste the joy, Buddha calls dana, that foundation for happiness, where we get to actually taste the joy, the relief, the goodness of offering in countless expressions that might be very simple. Something about the regularity, right, of that bow, of that lighting the incense, that sort of inculcates in us the gladness to be able to find, what can I give? And there's a sort of sufficiency in recognizing that I have something to give, whatever those resources are. And of course, we're talking about financial resources here, and there might be all kinds of others, the gift where we can give of our capacity to listen, or capacity to care, etc. And even others have also just referenced this very foundational level of practice in meditation and breathing. And the everyday language is about, we take breath. But do we need to take breath? Well, it's actually breath. The in-breath is actually given. It's offered to us. And the miracle of that, it's actually offered again and again and again. And that's it. Our out breath, can be an offering. So just that sense of just reflecting really and being touched by the way that sense of offering runs through the tradition. And one of the ways it runs through is where in the tradition and where the Buddha talks about the blessing of giving to those who are worthy of support. And just hearing people evoke Yanai's kindness, steadiness, impeccability, his willingness to do what needs to be done regardless of how difficult or unpopular it might be, to say what he felt needed to be said regardless of whether he'd be approved of for that, etc. It's easy to see, here is the blessing of giving to one who is beautifully, deeply worthy of support and has kind of demonstrated, activated and nourished that worthiness of support over all these decades of the service. So I'm just really glad, I've been staying in touch, like many of you, with the Caring Bridge notifications and the graciousness and honesty with which he's been writing those. But more than that connection and a few other contacts, just that sense of him coming alive here, as I say, feels very touching. And so I'm glad to join with you in that wish to support him, that recognition of his the worthiness of his heart, how, we could take it in that way. Oh, what good fortune we have to support one so worthy of support. And it's in that spirit. I appreciate being here and sharing with all of you. You're muted, Christina.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you so much. Christoph.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sitting here in Vienna, Austria, and in reflecting on, maybe I start this way. I'm probably one of the extended family around Yanai. I've met Yanai once 26 years ago. I was walking through India at that time with Akinchano, and we needed to rest. And at that time, Yanai was teaching with Christopher in India, and we were invited to sit in for the retreat in whatever ways we could, so which was a very generous offer. And I noticed this guy I only knew from, you know, maybe Inquiring Mind or something by name. Wow, this guy is really bright. This guy is really on fire in a way. Like, as some of my colleagues have already mentioned, the sense of passion for the Dharma was immediately feelable and visible. And so in thinking about the theme of community and generosity, I was reminded of a sutta, which is a bit of an obscure sutta, one of those with more mythological themes, and it's about, at certain stages of how the Buddha to be came into this world, a bright light appeared, and that illuminated even the darkest corner of the cosmos. And one of these occasions was when the Buddha descended from the heaven into his mother's womb. Whatever you might feel about the literal accuracy of this account, but taking it archetypically, when the Buddha came into this world, a bright light illuminated even the darkest corners of the cosmos, so that beings who lived in these very dark corners, who have never actually seen each other, were able to see each other. They could, for the first time in their existence, they noticed, here are others. And this really touched me when I came across this, because it signifies a spirit of the Dharma that is deeply connected with seeing each other in our existential situation as being living beings, connected in our common plight of going through a lifetime, being connected through the realities of old age, sickness, and death, but also being connected through our shared humanity in needing food, needing sleep, needing breath, but also in our way of being able to share meaning. And that's, I think, incredibly beautiful on an occasion like this, where we share a sense of shared meaning around supporting, well, each other in general, but supporting this man, Yanai, who, you know, has given so much in his life and is now in a vulnerable position, and to come together in the spirit of, yes, we want to look out for each other. We want to see each other, both in terms of our beauty and what we have to offer for each other, but also to see each other in situations where we might need help and support. And so this symbol of the Buddha bringing the light into the universe so that beings can see each other, you know, is a very beautiful symbol for that which truly supports practice, that which enriches life, that which gives meaning to our lives through looking out at each other, for each other, towards each other. So let's be generous.
Thank you so much, Christoph. Thank you. And Gavin.
Thanks, Christina. feels like a real honor to be here to participate in this around someone who I can respectfully call my teacher, my primary teacher, if you like. And just as others were sharing, just sort of tuning in again to being such a recipient of Yanai's generosity in sharing the Dharma, and the really profound effect that had on my life back in 2004 when I came on my first ever retreat of any type, and Yanai was one of the teachers. And, you know, the short version of that retreat is it really changed my life. And I was certainly someone living a life where, as one or two of you have alluded to, you know, how many of us are taught to live, you know, to try to accumulate, to try to get, what can I get out of this life? And I can still almost hear the echoes of Yanai's words, probably in the Dharma talk at the end, you know, this shift of heart that's possible, where it's no longer so much about taking from life, but more what can you give to it? And the seed was sown. And it's interesting, it's funny what you start to notice when you live a more mindful and awakened life. But part of what I wanted to touch on in the sharing here is really what I've just noticed through my own journey, my own exploration of life and walking this path is the power of generosity. So the power of Yanai wishing to give his time to sharing the Dharma, the effect that had on not just me, but countless other people. So my life was changed. 2 or 3 years later, I find myself getting off an aircraft in New Delhi in India, completely bewildered, didn't know, you know, had never really taken a leap of faith like that in my life before. And my nervous system for all those first few days when I was in India was just hardwired. And of course, the reality of arriving in New Delhi is there's a lot of people that want a slice of you and, you know, perhaps want to take stuff from you. So there was the opposite of generosity I encountered. But still almost as strong as any memory of that trip in my mind of being in India was arriving at Bodh Gaya to sit the retreats there, the January retreats, and walking through the monastery gates. And within a very short space of time, somebody sort of seeing that I was a bit lost, didn't really know where I was, sitting down with me and giving me one of their bananas. A small gesture, and yet it's one of the things that I remember most. And this has continued to be a theme that I've noticed in my life is, and you can perhaps tune into this yourself, just how powerful acts of generosity, being both on the receiving end and also the other side of it as well, are. There's something that's communicated, there's something that connects far often beyond what you might rationally think. And, you know, perhaps this is one of the reasons Yanai has really stayed and been my teacher throughout. And I guess maybe one of the few people here that really have been on a bit of a journey with him as a mentoring teacher, sitting beside him a lot in the meditation hall, training me to be able to share the Dharma, but also seeing this man behind the scenes also. And I can say hand on heart, the integrity that you see when he's at the front of the hall is how he walks when, you know, behind the scenes. And that in itself, you know, for me becomes, in a sense, the greatest teaching. And my sense is that, you know, we can all do this. We can all participate in life in this way. And I don't know about you folks, but looking ahead into the future and feeling like, hey, we're in uncertain times here. You know, what can we count on? What can we count on in this world? And I think generosity is one of those things we can count on. It helps build community. It's, as one or two people have mentioned, it's like a foundation. It's something that lubricates life, that makes it start to harmonize, brings people together, brings this, hopefully this global community more in the direction of coming together during these times where it's feeling so divided. And so sometimes it doesn't feel like there's so many things that are reliable, but this is something that I've learned through my kind of exposure to somebody like Yanai, that this is something that we can really count on. And also just this sense of happiness and well-being and staying in touch with, you know, the beauty of this world, of this life, just feels so important right now. So it's not just the power of generosity in terms of the impact it has on the heart and the way that it stays long in the heart and mind, but also I've noticed over the years just the infectiousness of generosity as well, and just my own sort of path of practice, increasingly family life, you know, living on the ground. You know, how does this teaching make sense on the ground? I was at the bus stop a few weeks back, and waiting for the bus, and somebody just pulled over in their car, woman with a child in the back, and said, where are you off to? And I said, to Totnes. And she said, come on, jump in. And again, just a small offering, but really impactful. And whilst I was in the car, I said, you know, just out of interest, what made you do that just then? And she said, well, somebody did that for me yesterday. And I thought, wow, I didn't expect that. And I thought, I'm going to do that if I've got the opportunity. So there are things in life, and when we tune into it this way, it's like we can start to get a hold of things that really can make a difference, that really can change these bewildered times maybe in a good direction. And we have this power available to us if we start to tune into and see the ripples and the effects that it can have. And that's certainly been my experience as a student of dear Yanai. So just to echo everyone else's words here as well, if we can really support this being, it's a really worthy thing to support at this time. And he's been right to the edge, as we know, in recent months, and he's coming through that now, which is great. And hopefully his generosity can continue to ripple out in the way it has so far through his life. So thank you.
Gavin. Thank you, Gavin. I first met Yanai when he was a very young man, when he decided not to be a lawyer. After all the years he'd put in learning to be a lawyer, he decided that wasn't really the game for him. And, you know, as a young man, his dedication to practice was as strong then as it is now. And it was a delight and a privilege to be part of his training. When I first heard about Yanai's diagnosis, my heart went out to him so much. And, you know, that empathy of, you know, being able to sense another person's challenge and not being able to take the affliction or the pain away. And, you know, we probably all had that in our lives, don't we? People we care for, that we love and care for, and yet not being able to take their pain away. But then I thought, well, I realized that there were so many implications around this diagnosis and this illness. And although I knew none of us had the possibility of taking the pain of it away, I thought, well, we're not helpless. You know, I realized this diagnosis has huge financial implications. Now, Yanai, something that hasn't been mentioned so far, Yanai is one in the teaching community who has a passionate and profound commitment to the Dana tradition. And he sees it so much as being at the core of his life, you know, generosity, being supported by the community around him, really seeing the centrality of that teaching of Dana and teaching generosity in the whole of the Buddhist teaching. And Yanai's been very unwavering, I think, in his commitment to really trusting and feeling confidence that, you know, if he was sincere in his giving, he would be supported. And it has not always been easy for him, particularly, I think, in the early years. So I realized that he would have no income at all over this time of his illness and his healing and recovery. And I felt so confident, and, you know, it's been so evident. I felt so confident that there would be so many people who would wish to support him. You know, I felt so confident of that you have enough on your plate. You don't have to worry about, you know, do I have enough to pay the grocery bills, or, you know, or do I not have to worry about finances? And I did feel so confident. I am so much confident, so confident that all these years of his giving and generosity and love for people, that there are so many who love him who would be simply feel delighted to support him. And Martina's mentioned this, you know, I'm sure there are people in this room, convinced there are people in this room who've been on this journey before in their own lives, you know, or with people that they love, to know what it is to have a cancer diagnosis, the demands of the treatment, the fatigue, the nausea, the whole roller coaster of this journey. And I know if any of you in this room have been on this journey yourself, or know people who have, you know that it takes time to recover. You know, great blessings that Yanai's surgery was successful, great blessings that he's had good people in the health service to support him, but it takes time to recover. And I had a conversation where Yanai and I spoke about this when I offered to play a part in organizing this. And, you know, I made the offer, and he said he wanted to think about it for a bit. And I think he talked with Catherine, and, you know, he said yes, you know, yes, you know. And I'm glad that he did, you know, I'm very glad that he said yes. Because it allows him to, as Martine said, to take the time that is needed to be well enough to return. And I think also his concern was, you know, that, you know, financial pressure would mean coming to teach again too soon. And then, you know, people pay a high price for that. People pay a high price for that. So I really so much appreciate the contributions of everyone in the teacher community. And I know there are those in the teaching community who've been close to Yanai that I didn't reach out to, and I apologize for that. Norman, I saw your image, and I thought, oh, why didn't I reach out to Norman? So my apologies if I neglected to reach out to you, but so much appreciation for the reflections from the teaching community and your willingness to give of your time and your energy to do this. Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to listen, for your willingness to be here, for your generosity, for your willingness to reach out with kindness to Yanai at this time. I know he is so deeply appreciative of all of the support that he has received on every single level. You know, not just the financial, but the love and the care and the concern. So you are all much appreciated and part of that healing process. So it's time for us to end. Wishing you really well, much gratitude for your practice, for your being here, for who you are. Stay well, be well, travel well.